Hey everybody, today I wanted to share something with you that I've been working on for a very long time. This was just a personal goal of mine, and I finally completed a collection. So about 10 or 15 years ago, I set out to try and get all of the Beatles' UK albums that were released while the band was an active band, so while they were all still together. And I wanted to get all of the original UK albums because I wanted to be able to listen to the albums the way the Beatles would have been able to listen to them at the time they were released. So, of course, obtaining these original albums takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, of course. And I have to say, as a disclaimer right away, that these are not in any way like near mint copies or even first pressings. Some of them are first pressings, of course, but a lot of them are not first pressings. They're not all mono or all stereo. There's a mixture in there as well. But my goal was just really to get all of the UK albums just have them all together, to be able to listen to them from the first album into the last, listen to it the way that the Beatles would have been able to listen to it if they were going to listen to all their albums at one time as well. So the criteria for my collection was that I wanted to get all of these pressings had to be from 1969 at the latest. So either from 63 to 69. That was the criteria. Most of these, I gotta say, are within a year of the album's release date, are these particular pressings. There's a couple of exceptions. But I'm very happy to have this and to complete this set because it's a bit of a milestone for me. And like I said, I know that there are better copies out there of these albums, and of course if I had an unlimited budget I would definitely upgrade almost all of these, but having these in my collection is just, like I said, a milestone for me, and I wanted to share them with you in this video today. So let's talk about each one of these. And I also want to add that there are better sounding pressings out there. Some of these are some of the best sounding pressings for Beatles albums, but there are definitely other pressings out there that sound much better than these. This was just a personal goal for me, so I don't want anyone to like misunderstand that all of a sudden I now think like these are the best pressings, because that is in no way what I'm saying in this video. But here we go. Let's talk about these. First up, Please Please Me. Now this one is in the roughest shape of all of the ones I'm going to show you, and this is the one I just recently acquired to complete this collection. So this is a stereo pressing of Please Please Me, and it was owned by a gal named Betty. Now, for some reason, Please Please Me pressings from the 1960s on the, I'll show the record here, on the black and yellow Parlophone label have become very hard to find and are very expensive for what you're getting. Now, of course, I would have loved to have had an original 1963 pressing of Please Please Me on the black and gold Parlophone label, but those are just insanely expensive, and hopefully one day I'll pick one of those up. But for now, this one's going to do me. This is a pressing from 1964, and as you can see, the record is not in the best shape. It's got a lot of surface scratches, and just the label has just been, the spindle wear is pretty insane. It's been played a lot. But the really cool thing about these 60s UK pressings that they can really take a beating. And if you're in a record shop and you see one of these and it looks like it's in really bad shape, give it a second look, because unless it has really deep scratches, which of course would affect the play and it would not be worth picking up, if it doesn't have any deep scratches and just has kind of surface scratches like this one, it'll probably play pretty good. Now, of course, this is in no way an excellent record or even like a VG plus if you're gonna pick this up on the marketplace. It's probably at best a VG or very good. And at worst, it plays just good, is what I would say. For me, I listened to this one actually last night, listened to both sides all the way through. It was a very pleasant listen. Sure, there was a lot of surface noise, and I did clean this. I cleaned this 2 times actually, and it did help a little bit, but you know, it's not a perfect record, but it plays all the way through, no skips, occasional pops. But for me, it sounded really, really good. And of course, these original Parlophone pressings are very, very warm. And I love the stereo mix of Please Please Me. It's one of the early Beatle albums that actually do prefer the stereo mix. So I was very happy to add this to my collection. And again, I think I mentioned this is a 1964 pressing of Please Please Me. So, you know, about a year after the album was released. So happy to add that to the collection. Next up, this is with the Beatles, of course. And this one happens to be a mono pressing. And this one is, let's see. Yeah, this one is a first pressing. And this one is in much better shape than the Please Please Me album that I just showed you. I would say this is in probably VG Plus shape. It plays very, very nice. It's got a lot of warmth to it. And if you've ever heard an original Beatles UK mono album, you'll know what I'm talking about. It has that really, just that super like smooth low end is what I would say, and just a very, very nice listening experience for me. And I much prefer the mono with the Beatles over the stereo with the Beatles, although I would like to get a stereo, original UK stereo pressing with the Beatles as well. But for now, very, very happy to have this mono pressing in my collection. Next up, Hard Day's Night. This one's also in very, very rough shape, the sleeve itself, but it is a mono pressing. And again, this one is not a first pressing. I believe it's the third repress. But again, the label looks to be in rough shape, and there are a couple of scuffs and scratches, but it plays very, very good is what I would say. And again, if you see these out in the wild and it looks like they're in horrible shape, they're probably actually not in as bad a shape as you think they are. It's all about putting it on a turntable and listening to it for yourself with headphones, by the way. Sometimes if you listen to a record just on your speakers, it'll seem like it's in better condition than it actually is. So always use headphones first. And headphones they will tell you exactly what condition your record is in, because you will hear that surface noise right away. But for me, happy to have this one in my collection. And again, I would like to get a stereo UK pressing of this as well. So try to look for one of those at some point. Okay, Beatles for Sale. One of probably my favorite of the early Beatles time period albums. I'm a big fan of Beatles for Sale, and I know I talk about that a lot on the channel. This one is a first pressing, and it is mono. I don't know if I said that already, but it is mono. And this one's in pretty good shape. I'd say this is like VG Plus. So a very, very nice listening experience. And for Beatles for Sale, I like the mono mix, and I also like the stereo mix. So it's hard for me to choose one. If I had to choose, I'd probably say the stereo mix. I prefer the stereo mix over the mono mix, but I'm very, very happy to have the mono mix of the album. And I know, of course, that the mono mix was the preferred mix of the Beatles themselves. So there's something to that as well. Next up, Help. This is a mono mix as well. And I don't think this is a first pressing. I think this is like a second or third. But this one is in very, very nice shape as well. I would say this is in like VG Plus shape. And of course, the mono mix of Help, the song Help itself has a very unique mono mix with a different John Lennon vocal, which is very, very cool to have. And I love the Help album, of course. I love all these albums, so that goes without saying, but it's nice to highlight some of them every once in a while. So happy to have Help, the mono pressing. And so I don't annoy you all, I will say that of course I would also like to have a stereo, original UK stereo pressing of Help as well, which I will do at some point. And technically I guess I do have that in my collection. I have a 1969 UK pressing of Help, but it's on the black and the silver Parlophone label. Okay, next up, Rubber Soul, and this is probably almost it's a little bit better than the Please Please Me pressing I just showed, but this is in pretty rough shape. But this is Rubber Soul, and it is mono as well as the last one I showed, which is Help. And as you can see, I think I've showed this one before on my channel, but somebody has written all over this one. It says like, I dig the Beatles. It's actually kind of cool to have. So Rubber Soul. And this one, this is not the loud cut. This is a -4. So I think this is like a second pressing. I'd love to get a loud cut of Rubber Soul. I have a friend who owns the loud cut, so I've heard it. He let me borrow it for a while. I've listened to it on my stereo. And the loud cut, I gotta say, while it's interesting and cool to have in your collection, it doesn't sound all that great to me. There's definitely some distortion going on there. At times it's kind of fun, but generally speaking, it's not something I would listen to all the time. But I'm happy to have this particular pressing, and this one again is not in the best shape. This is probably, it's got a lot of scratches. It's probably at best a VG, but it's probably more of a good. But it plays all the way through and doesn't have any skips, so that's cool with me. And let me add as a disclaimer, these are probably the only records that I will put up with that type of record condition. Generally speaking, I don't want to listen to anything that's below a VG plus, unless it has like historical value like these do. I have some like early jazz records on like the Blue Note label that are also in kind of rough shape, but I'm willing to overlook that because it's Blue Note and those sound really great and they're very collectible. So, but generally speaking, I want my records to be in much better condition. Okay, next up, probably if I had to pick my favorite Beatles album, this would be it, Revolver. And this is a mono pressing, and this one's in really, really nice shape. The sleeve is in really, really nice shape, and the record itself is in good shape as well. So, and there's the back of it. And this one, I don't think this is a first pressing. No, this is not a first pressing. So this is obviously not the one that has the unique mix of Tomorrow Never Knows. This is like a second or third pressing, I believe. And this had someone back in the day, people used to put like their like mailing address like sticker on here. So someone had that on there. I have not tried to remove it. Someone who owned it before me maybe tried to remove it because it's not all there anymore, but I'm just gonna leave it on there. But this one plays great. This is probably VG++, or maybe even excellent is what I would grade this one. This is a very, very nice listening copy of Revolver. And if you're wondering how this compares to like the 2014 mono remaster of Revolver or the 2022 mono pressing from the Revolver Super Deluxe Edition box set, all three of them are very, very similar in sound. I think this original UK pressing kind of edges out both of the other ones just by a little bit. It's hard to describe exactly why it's better, but there is just something that's a little bit more pleasing, maybe a little bit more presence about this pressing. But all three of those mono pressings are excellent, and you can't go wrong with any of them. Of course, that's my opinion. Maybe some of you disagree. Next up, a collection of Beatles oldies. This is a stereo pressing of this, and while of course this is a compilation, this was released during the Beatles' time as a band, And in my opinion, I think it's a pretty important record for one of their UK albums, and it's definitely overlooked, I think, nowadays. This one is a first pressing and it's of course stereo, like I mentioned before, and it's on the Parlophone label, as most of these are, and it's in pretty good shape. I'd say it's in VG or VG plus shape. Got a couple of scratches, but again, nothing that's like too crazily that you can hear that comes through, or that ruins the music in any way. So definitely happy to have that one. Let's see if I can put it back in the sleeve without wasting a lot of time. I cannot, so we'll do that later. Next up, Sgt. Pepper. This is a mono pressing. I have two of these. They're both identical as far as their matrices go. This is the better condition of the two. The sleeve's in pretty nice shape there. And it does have the original inserts in there. And this record is in really nice shape. And this is a first pressing. And I would say this is in excellent to, well, I'll say it's a solid excellent condition. Very nice listen, and I love Sgt. Pepper in mono. It's really brilliant, and I think it's the way to listen to Sgt. Pepper. And I've made a video about that, so if you want to go back and watch that video, I talk about how I think the mono version of Sgt. Pepper is the way to go. And if you're also wondering how this compares to the 2014 mono remaster, again, very similar. I've A/B'd both. I've A/B'd them before, and this one edges the 2014 out just by a little bit, much like Revolver, but they're both so similar that if you had either of them, you would have an excellent mono pressing of Sgt. Pepper. Next up, the White Album. This is the one in my collection that I still need to, I really want to upgrade this. So this is a stereo pressing, and this one is from 1969, possibly 1970. It's kind of, sometimes with the White Album, it's hard to really pin it down exactly, because sometimes with the White Albums, you would get like one of the records, because it's a double album for those you don't know, one of the records might be an early pressing, one of the other records might be a later pressing. And sometimes you might have early pressings in a later sleeve. So this is obviously not a numbered sleeve. I think they stopped numbering them maybe like a year after it, but then of course they started numbering them again. So the White Album is very confusing. But this one is a very nice playing copy. So I'm very happy to have it in my collection. And again, it is stereo, and it's on the Apple label. And let's see, as you can see there. And again, sounds really nice. A nice copy to listen to, but I am going to upgrade this at some point. And I would love to get an original mono pressing, UK mono of the White Album, of course, one of the top loaders. That's a goal of mine. So I've been on the hunt for one of those. Hopefully soon I'll have that in my collection. But for now, this stereo pressing from 1969 or 1970 will do the job. Next up, Yellow Submarine. And this is probably the Beatles album that I listen to. It doesn't get a lot of play around here, let me just say that. But I do still like it. I love the song, of course, Hey Bulldog. This is a stereo pressing, and this is a first pressing on beautiful green Apple label. And I even like the George Martin orchestrations on site too. They sound great. So happy to have Yellow Submarine in the collection. And then, next up, Abbey Road. Now I gotta say, when I arrange my records on my record shelf, I usually, I have Let It Be next. I like to put Abbey Road as the last album, but for this video, I'm gonna do these as they were released. So of course, Abbey Road was released before Let It Be, and I have two of these. They are the identical pressings, and this is indeed a first pressing, and it's a very, very nice copy of it. Now, it does not have the Apple that is out of line with the text. There are copies that have the Apple that's slightly askew, and those are indeed first pressings as well. But there are first pressings out there that don't have the Apple messed up on the back. So, and this is one of them. And again, this is probably, of all of these pressings, this is the best sounding out of all these original Beatles UK releases. It just sounds excellent. You'd be hard pressed to find a better sounding pressing of Abbey Road. Excellent, right there. And last but not least, Let It Be. Now this is not a first pressing because the first pressings were originally released, as I'm sure a lot of you know, in a box. They was released as a box set with a book, and this is not one of those. This is, I think, like a second or third pressing that was released without the box, just as a standalone. But I'm happy to have it, and I would like to have a Let It Be box. That is a goal of mine, to get one of those. I had one for a while. I had a Canadian pressing of it, and while it was nice to have, it was in very, very, very bad shape. So I eventually, I don't know what I did with it. I either sold it or I gave it to somebody. I can't remember exactly what it, or I traded it, something like that. Anyway, this Let It Be is what I have now, and it sounds really, really great. Excellent one to have in your collection if you can pick it up. So these are my, what I call, core collection here of the Beatles' original UK albums, and I will be adding to these and taking away from these, and hopefully I'll be making a video where I can show you all the monos, all the stereos, and some upgrades. But for now, I'm very, very happy to have all these, and I'm happy to share them with you as well, to show you what I got. And another goal of mine is to now, I wanted to try to listen to all the albums front to back, not in one day, obviously, because I have a little baby and I have a wife, so I don't have all that time in the world to do that. But over consecutive nights, I'm going to try to listen to all of these in a row. I think that'd be kind of fun to do. And I hope, by the way, this is not coming across as like bragging or being like, look what I have, kind of a thing like that. I'm not in any way trying to be that way. I just wanted to share it with all of you and just kind of commemorate this milestone in my Beatles collection. So that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Take care, and bye for now.